Let's color some art. The sky is blue, the grass is green, the road is gray. Let's make the car, I don't know, let's say red. Maybe the inside of the car is gray. We gotta make the wheels like a black or a dark gray. And this tree, yeah, let's make it tree colored. This is how I've always colored stuff, and it's not a bad way, but it lacks a little something. And so today, I'm gonna be going over some different things that I've been doing lately to spice up the colors in my illustrations. Now, in order to do this, we gotta get into our time machine and travel back to the 1980s to get some fresh inspiration. Now, a quick note, this is one of the coloring methods I cover in my new course, Creating Cartoon Characters in Procreate. There is a discount code down below in the description if you are interested in learning how to make characters while learning Procreate at the same time. Okay, back to the 1980s, specifically the part of the 1980s where people are playing 8-bit Nintendo games. The original Nintendo Entertainment System was pretty limiting. Characters were usually only made up of a couple colors, but even with only 3 or 4 colors, we still get some amazingly iconic character designs. The key to these working was the contrast between the colors that they chose for their characters. For example, if there wasn't a light color and a medium color and a dark color, this character just flat out wouldn't work. We shift them around, make them kind of the same value, and it just looks muddy and washed out. That's why Mega Man's suit could change color whenever he equipped a new weapon. As long as the contrast was good between the colors that were chosen, the suit was gonna look good. So how can we apply these principles to what we are working on here? Well, I've been limiting myself to 4 colors. Now, I know it seems limiting, but in reality, it is really limiting sometimes, and I absolutely hate it. But there is a darn good reason that I'm doing it. Also, for the record, we're going to be adding more than 4 colors as we go, so don't freak out too much. What I want to happen is I want this to work with 4 colors first, and then we can move on and add more colors later, because if those 4 core colors are working well, the base of that illustration that we're creating is going to work. In fact, for now, I'm not actually going to use real color. I'm just going to be using 4 shades of gray. I'm going to be using the Mega Man principle of coloring. As long as my 4 grays look good, then any other colors that I choose that correspond with those 4 colors of gray will look good. Dr. Light. Now, since I'm using Procreate, one thing that I'm trying here is I'm putting each shade of gray on its own layer and each block on its own layer as well. That's just going to make it easier for me later on to go in and color these things. If you want, you can turn Alpha Lock on. Alpha Lock is going to only let you paint where there already is paint, so if you're recoloring your layers, oftentimes that can be a really fast way to do that. That's something else that I'm doing here as well. I'm also going to select those layers by swiping right on each one, and yes, there are a lot of layers here, but then I can take all of those layers and I can group them together in a folder. Now, every time I want to try a new color combination, I can swipe left on that group, I can quickly duplicate that folder, and then on that new group of layers, I can try out a different color combination. Now here at this point, my instinct is to do what I was doing at the beginning of the video, choosing colors that make sense in my head, choosing the colors I think this character should be. But no, I want to deprogram my brain from doing that, so I'm going to force myself to use color combinations that don't make sense, and I'm going to see what happens. So where am I going to find these magical color palettes that I would never otherwise use? Well, let's open up Safari and take a look. One option is an app called color.adobe.com. It is a web app. I also believe, according to my screen here, that you can get this for the iPad in the Adobe Capture CC app. That seems a little bit extreme because the website works just fine. And what you see here is you can come in and you can play around with the colors, and it kind of tries to create color palettes for you. I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't really like working like this. It's kind of cool, I guess, because you can adjust a lot of things. I want to go with something a little bit more standard. So I have a site opened here called LOL Colors. The URL is really wonky. It's like webdesignrankings.com, blah, 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 LOL Colors. If you Google LOL Colors, you're going to find this site. And there are dozens of sites out there like this that will give you color combinations pre-built. So I can come in here and find the color combination that I don't think will actually work, and I can give it a try. For example, there's a nice color combination here, which is 3598, so I'm going to do a quick screen capture, and what I just captured shows up in the lower left-hand corner, so I'm going to go ahead and tap on it, and I'm just going to crop out one of the colors that I like. Hey, I didn't want that pencil mark, or that one. I'm just going to use my finger instead of my pencil to to crop this. So all I need are those colors. Once I have it cropped, I'm going to tap on this little icon up here. I'm going to say copy, and then I'm going to go back to Procreate here, and I'm just going to paste this in like so. It's going to show up on its own layer, and I'm going to move it over to the left. And I'm going to match up these colors to the best of my ability. So this lighter color blue, it comes down here, it becomes my very light gray. And it's so light, it's probably gonna be hard to see in the video, but that's all right. This medium color, I'm gonna choose my yellow, and I'm gonna come in here, and I'm going to match that to that shade of gray. And then I'm gonna grab this orangish red, more orange than red. I'm gonna match that to that gray, and same thing with this blue, and I'm going to match that with that gray. So now, I'm gonna take a look at what he looks like when I replace these colors. So I can honestly say I never would have picked this color palette in a million years. However, it is kind of working. I did make the blue a little bit bluer so you could actually see it on the screen, and if I wanted to make these colors work, I totally could. But if I didn't like this color palette and I wanted to try another one, very easy. Just go over to the website, grab another palette that maybe has the same kind of range, and I could choose that one instead. Since this is working, now I can jump ahead and maybe make another variation. For example, I might want a darker shade of this yellow color. So I'm just gonna come in here, I'm gonna find something that isn't as dark as the orange, but is a darker version of that yellow, and I'm gonna add that to my color palette. I'm gonna also use the eyedropper tool to grab that shade of blue, grab a slightly darker shade of blue, and do the same thing. And I might do that with all of these. For example, this really bright orangish red, go in here, find something just a little bit deeper, and now I can use these as accent colors for everything else here. So I'm gonna fast forward through this and we'll see how this one looks. There we go. By adding these accent colors, I can make the entire drawing stand out, and I made things work. There's a couple places, for example, his eyebrows and his eyes, his nose, his mouth, where instead of going with the blue, I decided to go with a similar darker shade of the orangish red. The lines on the page he's holding, instead of being yellow, are just a slightly different shade of blue. So there are some places where I just make logical color choices once I get my main color set. So just for funsies, I decided to do the same thing a couple times over just to see how many different color palettes I could get going on this single character, and this is what I came up with. I've been having a lot of fun with this technique, mostly because it's been opening my mind to other colors and things like that that I would never ever use any other way. Of course, I can always go in, and I usually do, and scale it back once the main colors are in place, but as a starting point, as a place to build off of, it works really well. So this is my new way of applying color to a lot of the imagery and characters that I am creating. How do you do it? Let me know down below in the comments, and in the description, don't forget the discount code to that Creating Characters in Procreate course I mentioned earlier. Thank you guys for watching, really appreciate it, and I will talk to you next time.